When I was a casual, I thought as a casual, I spoke like a casual, and I looked at boxing like a casual. But when I became a hardcore, I put away all those casual things. This is Michael Rogers, and welcome to Bodywork Boxing.
You are top 15 in the world now, obviously with the WBA. You look at those champions out right now, you saw a tremendous shock the other week with Kiko Martinez beating Kid Galahad. Obviously Josh Warrington got beat in a good fight with Mauricio Lara. You got Santa Cruz, you got Gary Russell, hasn't boxed for about 17 years. You know, you got all these people that really you keep calling out. I mean, you know, I wouldn't be afraid to put you in with a Kiko Martinez right now for the world title. I know you've got business to take care of on Saturday, but this is on the horizon.
Now, let me break something down for you based on what Eddie was just saying. Here you got Eddie Hearn talking to Raymond Ford because he has an upcoming fight on Saturday, right? He's telling him and talking to him about all the champions and, you know, painting this broad picture and this bright, beautiful picture of all the champions that he can face. And I don't know if y'all picked up on something, but this is an indicator of something that Eddie does. When he talked about Gary Russell, he said Gary Russell, who hasn't fought in 17 years. And he was making a joke, but that joke kind of went over a lot of people's heads. But see, I've been paying attention to Eddie Hearn, right? And the only thing that really made me actually do this video was my lady. Because we was watching boxing last Saturday. And she said, I've never talked to her about Eddie Hearn. She said after watching that whole card and watching the interaction, she's like, is he sort of some kind of crook or something? And we bust out laughing. And I said, you know what? It's so funny you say that. I said, he is a excellent promoter, but he's very slick. And if you are not aware of the pattern of what Eddie does, this is exactly what he does. He's promising Raymond Ford Kiko Martinez, right? That's like a carrot on a stick. So let's break Eddie down, because I get tired of people always hyping up the whole DHP promotions and all this other stuff, you know what I'm saying? And then they'll turn right around and hype up Andrade, and in the same breath they'll hype up Canelo. And then they'll turn right around when Triple G is brought up. They'll excuse away the fact that he won't fight Charlo and say that he's old. And I'm like, okay, so which Eddie Hearn are you talking about? Which Eddie Hearn are you talking about? Are you talking about the one that gave Canelo all that money? The one that was still, even though Canelo was a quote-unquote free agent, who was still all in the mix with the Caleb Plant situation when Canelo walked away from the table first and he was still consulting with Eddie? You talking about that one? You talking about that Eddie Hearn? Or you talking about the Eddie Hearn that actually signed Devin Haney, signed Demetrius Andrade, and signed and had Triple G? And we haven't seen, this is the first time we actually seen, I'm gonna get to Devin Haney. I'm not gonna talk about that right now, because Devin Haney actually has a valuable opponent right now. And I'm very proud of Devin for actually landing this deal and actually getting this deal on the table. You know, now I can stop being so hard on them, because they have too many yes men around, basically saying yes to everything that they do. And that was gonna lead to his demise. I've been the only one barking and preaching all this time to stop being a yes man to Devin. You're only going to hamper and hinder him. But I'll get back to that. But let's get around to this Andrade thing, right? Because here it is. You have people that shit on Charlo and say, oh, Andrade sent Charlo off. I was like, so you believe that, Eddie? Well, what about the Eddie that had Andrade, Canelo, and Triple G, and they never fought each other? What about that? They all on the show. It's all in-house. Never fought each other. Never. What about that, Eddie? So people be saying, Andre, everybody's scared. It's like, no, y'all. I don't know why y'all. Let me give you an example. Eddie Hearn gave Mikey Garcia a one-off. He paid Mikey Garcia $7 million to fight who? If you know who I'm talking about, then you know who I'm talking about. That means you've been following, right? So they gave Mikey $7 million. Everybody was like, well, dang, Mikey's such a good businessman, and blah blah blah. And I'm like, no, this is what Eddie does. See, Eddie, he has a pattern. See, he'll get a marquee guy and he'll pay them a lot of money. But then when it comes to the level of opposition or letting a fight of somebody that can actually challenge them and actually poses a threat to them, he always don't have enough money to actually pay them. Why you say that, Mike? Oh, because after he gave Mikey that $7 million, he saw that deal really didn't work out for him. They paid Mikey, they saw that they paid Mikey way too much money. Why? Because right after that, here recently, Mikey was going to fight Regis Prograis. And Regis Prograis came out on one of them interviews and said that, yeah, they were saying basically that Eddie didn't really have the money. How he never had the money when it comes to some viable competition? And how y'all gonna believe Eddie when it comes to Andrade and Charlo $10 million and that Charlo gonna turn it down? Y'all just run with narratives and saying, oh, somebody in the camp, no realistic journalistic integrity. Just take any kind of little glimpse of something that might get a like or a click or get some hype or a buzz. Just take it and run with it, but you never stop and look at Eddie Hearn. Okay. So now let's talk about Devin Haney, right? And why I brought this up. And why I finally made this video. Because this video, I supposed to have made this video like three months ago. But it's funny that he brings up Mr. Gary Russell and how he hasn't fought in 17 years. That's very interesting because I remember when Mr. Gary Russell got, Devin Haney jumped in on a beef between Gary Russell and Terrence Bud Crawford, in which Mr. Gary Russell has a history with Bud. I'm not going to get into all of that, but they had a history and Gary Russell was wanting to fight him. He's saying, I'll fight you. Devin jumps out there and says, I'll fight you. What Eddie Hearn saw was free promotion. Why? Because they had already negotiated. DHP and Gary Russell had already negotiated. And Bill had already went back to Eddie, and Eddie told him that he didn't like the numbers. That was the first time. That wasn't last year when they were negotiating, trying to, do something in November, December time frame. Devin and them wanted to do something in November. Gary and them wanted to do something in December, the day after Christmas. Eddie didn't see the numbers. The first time around, Bill never got back with Mr. Gary Russell because in his excuse, when they finally talked again on the next go around in the negotiations, trying to do that at the end of last year in 2020, he said that, oh yeah, the first time Eddie Hearn didn't like the numbers. And Gary Russell was like, well, look, as a man, you could have called me back and said, and he's like, I know, my bad. So how you don't like the numbers when Mr. Gary Russell was the longest reigning champ? So on paper, you would say, okay, maybe not in experience, but in height and size and all this glory, glamorification, whatever you want to call it, Devin had all the, advantages over Mr. Gary Russell, let everybody else tell it. So why that fight didn't happen? Why didn't it happen? Because this is what Eddie does. He promised you the stars and the moon, and he gets all this. He gets marquee attraction on one side that he can actually promote a fight in, but he's never going to give you anybody on the other end, especially anybody of any kind of substance. He's never going to give you anybody on the other end that's going to challenge you, especially if you sign to him permanently. I understand these one-offs and all that. He can get away with that because it's an attraction. If he puts a couple of his people to get some notoriety on his undercard, he tries to build some of the people in his undercards by getting these marquee guys to fight, let's say unlevel competition. Because we got to show boxers respect. You know, it's very disrespectful. I know we say bums, you know, loosely, but no offense to any boxers because y'all put y'all life on the line. So when I say bums or whatever, and I'm going to try to refrain from using bums, but whenever I refer to these boxers of lesser opposition who don't really deserve to be in the ring with the elite, that's what I'm talking about, right? But this is what Eddie does. Promise you the sun, the moon, and the stars. He'll pay you, but he's not going to pay anybody, and he's always going to find out a way for you all on the other end not to make the fight. And I've been watching the pattern. And here it is recently, everybody was saying, maybe Bud should go holler at Eddie Hearn and maybe he can fight Triple G. I'm like, are y'all fucking stupid and crazy and dumb? First of all, Bud would jump up 2 weight classes. And then you talking about him getting with Eddie. What is Eddie going to do for him? But fatten his own pockets. You might well pull a Keith Thurman and take 2 years off if you're gonna go get with Eddie. Preserve your body. Go do something fun in your prime and then come back. Just stay in shape because Eddie's not gonna get you to fight. I've been saying this whole time that, and somebody gotta come on here and prove me wrong. Eddie Hearn signed and got Andrade under contract to keep him away, to play keep away from Canelo. Prove me wrong. He just now got a Quigley. Why he didn't get a Triple G? Anybody that fight on the zone or, because Golden Boy, they got to deal with the zone. Why are those fights not happening? The Jaime Munguia and Andrade. The Andrade and Canelo. The Andrade and Triple G. The Andrade and Charlo. The Charlo and Canelo when Canelo, before he was a quote-unquote free agent, even though we know Eddie still, got his hands on some kind of shape, form, or fashion. Because Eddie after the breakup, after the first time when Canelo left the table, Eddie was all in the mix. I'm like, what? Why are we talking to Eddie? Why are we listening to Eddie? I thought Canelo was a one man, but see, he lets Devin Haney run around talking about I can make any fight I want. And Bill get online and say, we got the money. No, y'all just got the money, and it was crazy because he basically said Ellaby called him out and said here recently when the Rolly and Tank fight was in jeopardy and Rolly got pulled from the card, he gonna say, Devin Haney's name was in the hat, and Ellaby blasted his ass and said, what fucking hat? What name and what hat? Paying what? To do what? So he does that for promotion. And the only reason why I believe that pullout, that whole Rolly pullout, that's the only thing that's actually sunk Devin into fighting JoJo. And I applaud them from actually grabbing their nuts and actually going ahead and do it, because it's easy to run around saying nobody gonna fight you, knowing that you playing behind the fence. It's easy to talk all that stuff and you got a big ass fence named Eddie Hearns wrapped around you. He got the keys to the purse or the wallet. He not gonna let you fight nobody. And that's just your way. You can say, ain't nobody gonna fight me, man. Nobody gonna fight me. Then Eddie say, nah, behind closed doors, Eddie be like, nah, we not paying them, man. We paying you too much money, to be honest. You're not a draw. If you ever notice that the people outside of Canelo, who does Eddie have that's actually a draw? They fight on the app. You don't have to be a draw that fight on the app. So if you with Eddie, like you're not gonna be a draw outside of Canelo. You're not a draw. You can say everybody don't want to fight you all you want, but Eddie is not gonna open up those purse. He's not gonna open up the purse. He's gonna promise you the world. He gonna put you on undercards or some big events and build you up like that, and hopefully you get enough notoriety to where when you do jump off the porch, you'll actually have a real live fan base that's checking for you. But outside of having the app, don't nobody know about you. They wait till after the fight over and watch the highlights. They do have some of the longest highlights. And they do come up instantly. So people just wait till after the fight and watch the highlights. That's the truth of the matter. But I believe that the only reason why Devin and JoJo is fighting because they were the ones that actually got cornered. Because let me address something else. Everybody was sitting up here trying to say that Tank was getting ready to quote unquote poach JoJo Diaz from Devin Haney. Let's think about that. It wasn't until Rolly got pulled out that we found out and got confirmation that the JoJo Diaz fight was actually in the books. That just so happened to be around the time when, well, it was months later, because Triller had already fell out, but then he actually, since he bid on that purse bid with Teofimo Lopez, he has him fighting, 1 week, and then he got Devin and them fighting the next week. It's promotion. Ain't that ironic? That's real ironic. And he knows it's going to be a draw because everybody's going to be looking to see what Devin's going to do after T.O. does whatever he does. I just want to paint a picture for y'all for how this man is an excellent promoter, but he's full of shit, for real. I don't knock him because, we live in a world where it's full of capitalism. I don't knock him at all. But we got to look at a pattern. And you can't believe Eddie one day and then shit on him the next day. It's like, no, which Eddie are we talking about? But Tank was not poaching JoJo Diaz. Tank was looking for a viable option outside of Rolly. He wound up finding Isaac Cruz, who's actually in the top 10. So he's a top 10 guy. Unless you're a hardcore, you really don't know him. And a lot of people are saying that this is is pretty much you can pretty much put your money on Tank if you got enough money, because I don't know what the odds are going to be, but it's my opinion that Tank could not have been poaching. And then with that bullshit, I'm like, cry me a motherfucking river. Because if Tank would have got JoJo Diaz, right, on some old, because the channel that I saw this for, they always put a lot of they always putting oil in the water and shit. I'm trying to clean the lake up, but they always putting oil in bullshit. They always shitting and pissing all in the community water. You know what I'm saying? With this bullshit that they put out, these little narratives that they put out, and they push them because they dick riders. You know what I'm saying? So let me tell you this. It was all good because they was playing this game about black man, right? How can you do this to the black man and the black man and the black man and the black man? But they never mentioned that Devin Haney actually they actually was in negotiation with Mr. Gary Russell. And I'm not sure what the amount was, but I would want to say it was 1.5. I want to say somebody can pull my coattail if I'm wrong. I'm always down to be corrected. But it was I think it was about 1.5. Because it started off at 2, and then it went to 1, and then Gary, I guess, from what I recall, Gary was like, I do it, do it for 1.5. And then it was 1.5 plus the terms, and he made all this deal about the terms. And then before the Rolly pull out and he actually inked that deal, JoJo Diaz was talking about the terms. Because it came out that Devin Haney wanted a rematch clause and all this. I'm like, well, either you're going to pull a Loneman, you that confident, or I guess you learn from Loneman, you do have to bark for a rematch clause. You know what I'm saying? Because he didn't think that T.O. was going to beat him, and he didn't have a rematch clause. And so now T.O. kiss my ass. You know what I'm saying? So I say all that to say, when they were talking about when they were talking about JoJo and Ryan having a fight, everybody walking around talking about, oh, this how they want to do the black man. They want to shut the black man out, and that's they trying to go around and they freezing Devin Haney out. I'm like, yeah, but like, look at what the black man did to the other black man. Because if you want to be honest about it, Devin Haney didn't choose to actually go through, or Eddie, for whatever reason, whether it was the level of competition or you can save money, even though I think they actually giving JoJo Diaz more money than they actually was going to give Mr. Gary Russell Jr. So don't be talking that black shit when y'all froze Mr. Gary Russell out from that deal. And then Gamboa's a Cuban guy, so I mean, you froze him out for a Cuban, right? So then the talks, they ramped up again, and okay, yeah, let's do this, the talks and the rumblings and the grumbling, which was all promotion. They ramped up again so that, a possibility of Devin and Gary, and it didn't go through again. And then what? I mean, I guess where's Jorge Nalares from? He's not a black man. And so then and then I remember right before the Linares fight, Devin called out Lomachenko the week of. Right after the fight, Devin called out Tank. I don't know if you see where I'm going here. So now we're gonna get JoJo Diaz. But I'm trying to highlight something, that this is what Eddie does. This is what Eddie do. He'll promise you one thing. He'll pay you, but that's all he's gonna do. I mean, Andrade and Devin ain't starving. We know, Canelo, he's big fish. But these guys who talk about Eddie in such a glowing manner, he'll pay you. And salute to him for, for the American way, if you want to call it, being capitalistic, in his way. But I just wanted to touch on this and what he does. So anybody trying to push, especially black fighters, anybody trying to push black fighters over that way, black American fighters, elite black American fighters is not the best option for Eddie. It depends on the weight class that you're in. Really depends on where you should sign. But we starting to see a pattern with Top Rank, and that as a black elite American fighter, that might not be the way to go unless you're starting off your career, because they can give you that excellent starter package. They'll get you all the way up to a title. You might have to go through some bullshit, but Top Rank might be the better play. But after you establish, Top Rank probably won't be the play. But I'm guaranteeing it's not going to be with Eddie. He got some marquee guys he keep on his side, and he rules and regulates who's going to be on the other side of that ring from you. And he's not going to pay anybody of note to actually get on the other side. It's going to have to be one of his guys, which is an in-house, and he can build off of it, or he can, finagle a one-off from one of these guys that's finally wanting to go independent, and the saga continues. Body work.
All right, I believe you, but my Tommy gun don't. Get down on your knees and tell me you love me.
My word, I do what I do. He knows what I'm about to tell him right now. It's Mr. Keep running your mouth. That's what I do.
I just feel like I'm the champ, and at the end of the day, I'm just a fighting motherfucker. Doesn't matter. Inside, outside, I can just fight. So I just feel like if it gets down to the wire, we gotta lock it up. I'm out on top.
Hey, look, as you can see how I'm looking, I stay solid. I'm always solid. I stay fuck solid up, right? You know what I'm saying? To the fans that know.
Do that job outside the ring. I'm a fighter. Like I said before, ain't no safety on the top, so I'm gonna do it.